Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. It is Sally Talk. It's Friday at 10 o'clock, so that means it is my weekly live broadcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Before I get to my guest, I wanted to talk a little bit about tomorrow, and I'm going to post this on my Facebook page. Tomorrow, I'm going to be participating in my first, the suicide awareness walk that they've been having, and I keep putting off of joining that, but I've met someone who I met through Instagram and through the grief community of Instagram, and her Instagram page is called Letters to John, and she's great. And so I met her last night and we were talking, and so I'm joining her on the walk tomorrow. So I'm going to post, and I'm not asking for like a ton of donations because I'm always asking for donations for all of my charities, but I am going to post it. And if anybody is going to be in the Pasadena area and wants to join, it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day. And it's and she said it's like it's really a great group, and they organize for and support each other and all of that. So I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm going to be glad I'm going to be part of it, if that makes sense. You know, part of me wishes I didn't have to even participate, but then part of me is glad it's there. So anyway, that's my one announcement. My second announcement is is my sponsor, is myself. So for 39 years, Arbonne International, almost 40, very exciting. Arbonne International is the kind of company that looked out for you before you even knew there were harmful ingredients in products, and before you found out that petroleum products are bad for you and animal byproducts weren't so good for you and things weren't regulated. We knew that, and our founder knew that. And so he started Arbonne International so that you could have safe products that you didn't have to keep in your refrigerator, on your dresser and in your bathroom, and take good care of yourself. So if you're interested and want to know any more about Arbonne skincare, nutrition, and cosmetics, let me know at sallyholida.arbonne.com. That's sallyholida.arbonne.com. Okay, all the business is done and out of the way. So I'm happy to welcome my guest, Megan Ford Miller. And Megan produced the one-woman show that my friend Stacy Demolsky, who is a previous guest here, did. And so then I met Megan through that. And so then, anyway, so we hit it off, and she's cool, and she has an interesting story. And so I invited her, and I did invite her the week that I broke my hand and my hand and my wrist, and I had to cancel, so I felt bad about that. But now she's back, and we've rescheduled, and I'm somewhat back to normal. So Megan, thanks for coming. You're on my podcast finally. Yay!
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about your little snafu.
Man.
That was quite a adventure.
It was dumb.
Oh.
No, it was just dumb.
Rough.
It was literally.
So rough.
Yeah, it's one thing to have something like that happen and then have it just be dumb, and then you're sitting there with the pillows and you're all, It's like you can't do anything. But anyway, so you are doing a workshop, which I am going to be part of on Sunday because I'm kind of excited about it. I have a background, a lot of people don't know about me, is that I have a background in comedy. When I was working in New York City, I got a desire to do stand-up comedy back in the early 90s. And is that right? Yeah, no, early 90s. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because I moved to California in 89, so it was the 80s. And there was a new club called Stand Up New York in New York, and it was brand new, and now it's a real club. It's funny, but it was a brand new club, and they wanted people there, so I worked with a group, and we used to do showcases and stuff like that to kind of bring people in. It was fun. So I had a little bit of that, moved to California, and I did some improv here. And I was around a lot of people who are aspiring actors and everything else. So it's always been kind of like a little thing in the back of my mind. And then I got married and kids and all that. So, but you never know. So I'm going to be going to your workshop. So let's back to you. So tell me about the workshop and tell me about why you're doing this workshop for actors and entertainers and everyone.
So this I've done the workshop twice where it's just myself, and then actually my son was with me and kind of chimed in on a couple. I've done it twice. But this one is a little different because it's a curated festival. It's at the Santa Monica Playhouse, so it was selected to be in the BFF. It's the Binge Fringe of Theater. So this one is paneled, which is really great because I have 3 actors, and I also have a manager and an agent, one from Abrams Artists and one from the Green Room. So really great companies. And so it'll be nice to get that perspective, and then also to let people ask questions. So I'm really excited about it. I haven't done this workshop as a panel before, so it'll be a first. But it's really for people who are young in their career and they're still kind of trying to figure out the balance and figure out what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. People who just need a little like kick, a little nudge, a little push, some encouragement really. So it's all of those things. It'll be informational, but I think it'll also be inspirational. So, yeah, it'll be good.
Oh, that's great. So why? How did you end up knowing how to guide people? Your story's cool.
Reed and I started this journey in 2013. So he was 13. He's now...
And that's your son,
my son,
Reed.
Reed Miller, yes. So now he'll be 20 in November, which blows my mind. But so we've been at it for a while. And I have a background in the arts. I went to a performing arts school. I had my first IMDb credit at 12 for ABC. I did tons of modeling and print, commercial stuff like that. So, but I didn't live in a hub. I didn't live in New York or LA, and I had siblings that were 7 and 8 years younger than myself. So it wasn't like, my parents just couldn't like drop everything and, take me. So, I ended up just doing tons of theater, which, is mostly what I produce now and promote. And, so I had that background, and when he decided at about 12, he was like, I think he'd always loved movies, such a cinephile from a very young age, like not just movies, but like how they're made and, just an interest in the industry as a whole. Mm-hmm. So, when he said it, I was like, oh, just because I know the commitment and the competition and, my mind was like, oh, okay. But I also felt like he was talented. So we were like, all right, so if we're going to do this, then, let's do it, like all in kind of thing. And so we've been coming to LA since 2013 and then here pretty much year round, living here by 2015. But, it's interesting because Reed was really fortunate that he started off in this industry with an agent and a manager and good reps. But there is a huge information gap between starting out in this business, even with reps, just nobody's going to hold your hand. And so I found it really difficult to like find things out from people. And, it was, it's just like, nothing, because even though I have like 20 years of marketing in my background, this industry is so unique to itself that it's like, what's the secret? Where's, there's just no information out there. So that's why for me, I feel like, after 7 years, I can maybe help somebody else skip a couple of those steps.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And have a little bit of a leg up, or at least a better understanding. And so they can feel a little bit more confident in what they're doing. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why.
Yeah. That's great. And like to be able to help, because I don't feel like there's necessarily and a want to help anyone because it's so competitive too. Right. I remember when I came out here and I was in improv, And a lot of people, they couldn't get an agent unless they were in something. And the one thing you could be is you could be in an improv troupe because you paid for it.
Right.
It was a membership. So a lot of these improv troupes, people don't realize that you pay for it and then you get money back from the door. But when someone comes to the show, but you actually pay to be part of the troupe, and that's what keeps the troupe going. But then so you could invite people. So if somebody was looking, you could invite people to come see you to hopefully get an agent or whatever. But that was their way around it. And they would do stand up and do comedy to get people to come see them because they couldn't get into a.
And that's still the case.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, that was one of the first things Reed ever did when we were here in LA is join a kids improv group. Mm-hmm. And that's still, it's kind of like that first step that, that's still a thing.
Right.
People still do
and
it.
then, but improv is good to learn that because,
of course.
Yeah, because I had friends of mine who were actors who didn't do comedy and they'd come see me. And they'd go, don't ask me to get up on stage. Like, don't ask me. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, what are you talking about? It's good to not be afraid of that, you know, and be able to come up and handle yourself. And there's tricks. It's a skill. Yeah. It's like something to learn. It's not necessarily like you're just a natural at it. There's skill. It's a skill.
It is a skill. And it also, I think it's a confidence builder too. Mm-hmm. It's improv is great. Everybody who wants to be an actor should do improv or comedy, whatever you're doing. If you have to be up in front of people and think on your feet, because you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Even in an audition, somebody could throw you a curveball.
Right.
They could just go, okay, that was great. Now just do your own thing. And what do you do if you don't know what to do? Because it happens a lot.
Right.
So
yeah, I remember it was Robin Williams that kind of like blew the door off that when he was in Mork and Mindy. It was like he was one of the first, because I know Jonathan Winters was always known for improv before that, but I don't remember him given the freedom like Robin Williams was. Robin Williams was given so much freedom in Mork and Mindy.
Such an iconic role.
He was, because he was an alien, he could get away with whatever he said. It was really beautiful the way it was like allowed and set up. It was kind of like a miracle, but that was what kind of opened up where people like kind of,
I can do my own thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And people, forget like Tom Hanks was a comedian when he started. He was really good at that. He could be on a talk show or whatever and he'd be like super funny. And that's the other thing, right? Is the talk shows and being able to, when you're doing the junkets, to be able to be funny.
Hosting, if you a lot of people, they aspire to be, they want to host, that's what they want to do. And you definitely have to think on your feet. Yeah. Sure.
Right. That's interesting. So you were a stage mom kind of, you were pulling. So one of the things I think, because it's competitive, but I do think that the people that get on the plane and come to LA, that's one step. Like just having the courage to leave their hometown and come out to LA or New York or whatever and pursue the dream is like one step. Because there could be other people that are super talented, but they never get on the plane and come out.
It's a step of, it's just like a leap of faith because it is such an unknown, even though like, I had an arts background and had done some things in the industry. I mean, I was a kid, it's different and you don't necessarily know all of the ins and outs of things and how they work as a kid. And honestly, I don't really think my parents did either. I mean, so it was really learning a whole new vocation, because there is this gap, even with a manager, there's no hand holding. There's no, they don't want you to email them every day and ask questions. You can't just call, they will get really sick of that. So you have to figure things out on your own. You have to kind of just research and talk to people. And, sometimes it just felt like pulling teeth to get information because there's just, like you said, it's super competitive, and maybe that's the thing, is nobody wants to give you the secret, but the truth is there really is no secret. It's just about being diligent and being consistent and, not giving up and preparing for the long game. And I think that's really the secret.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think if you are talented and you're doing the things you need to be doing, you're in classes, you're continuing to hone your craft, and you're exercising those muscles, and you're committed. I mean, I just think it's a lot about timing. So, the people who do take that step and they jump on the plane and they come to LA or, whatever they do, a lot of times what I hear is, oh yeah, we're here for 3 weeks, or we're here for 4 weeks. And I'm like, that's great. You can definitely dabble your toe in it, but if you don't approach acting like you would approach any other career, that includes training, education, and commitment, you're really not going to get that much back out of it.
Right.
So, I mean, for me, my big thing is, if you were going to go be an attorney or a nurse or an insurance agent, like whatever you would do, there would be training involved. You would take tests. There would be, you know what I mean? You have to approach acting in the same manner. And because really, I mean, to get an audition in LA is like getting to a regional tournament if you play sports, and to book, or to even be competing in the arena for like pilot season and get in those rooms for network pilots. This is the Olympics. I mean, Olympians train, they're committed. If you don't approach it that way, you're not going to get that much out of it.
Right.
So,
right.
That's kind of my thing.
And you need to be ready to, so it's just like tennis is a good one, like it's like, boom, you walk out, now it's time for you to play tennis.
Yep.
So when you go audition, it's going to be the culmination of everything that you've done, and that has to be visible. Like they have to see that you've prepared for that moment, and you can't. I think there's a kind of like a childish idea of you'll be discovered because you're uniquely you, and aren't you special? But because
we're all special,
because it's a huge. I saw, everybody knows one of my favorite actors is Ewan McGregor. I love him, and I saw him in a Q&A after the movie The Impossible, and it was all actors, and they said, what is your tip? What is one of your tips, And he said, I can't even emphasize this enough. It's like, everybody's been there since 4 a.m. And when you come out of your trailer and you walk over to your spot, you better be ready to go, because they're tired. They've all been doing, it's a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of coordination to get it, because when it's time for you, then all the pieces are in place. They've done everything they need to do to get you to where you need to stand. And if you don't know what you're doing, and don't know your lines, and don't know how you're
There's
gonna,
a lot of eye rolling happening.
Yeah, it's like you want to. He goes, you want to like. They're all standing there going, you gotta be kidding me. He goes, you have to be ready, and that's your job, is to be like ready to roll, and you're ready to go. And so that is a skill. It's not something that just because you have green eyes and you have a winning smile, it really messes everybody up.
I think especially there's definitely some delusion with parents bringing their kids out, because I think a lot of times, when you're not inside the industry, when you're outside looking in, or you're just looking at it and you don't really understand how it works, you do think, oh, my kid's really cute and they can really turn it on. But it's not just that. Like, it's a lot of things beyond that. I also think that there's the understanding that auditioning is part of your job as an actor. It's not just, so people get very put out. I I hear it a lot. Oh, we just audition. And I'm like, yeah, that's the job. I just went to the Netflix early premiere in LA of The Irishman. And afterwards there was a panel and it was John De Niro. I'm sorry.
Robert De Niro.
Robert De Niro.
That's okay.
Brain. Robert De Niro.
Last night was Halloween. It's all good.
That's right. It was the whole main cast there.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that Ray Romano said, who everybody knows Ray Romano. Everybody's seen Everybody Loves Raymond.
Right.
He I would consider famous.
Mm-hmm.
And even he had to send a self-tape audition in for The Irishman. This auditioning at any level, this is part of the job.
Right.
So when you're getting put out by the auditioning, and I realize that really that's about because they haven't booked anything yet, it takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just like anything else. If you're a new actor, even auditioning is a learning process. You're not necessarily walking in the room and you're good at it in the first, it takes time. And I think people don't understand that this is all a building process. So when you're like, all right, I'm going to come out to LA and, we're going to be there for however long, but you put that mark on it, whatever it is, you just have to be willing to accept that if it doesn't happen within whatever time frame it is that you've put on it, that you need more time, or, you have to, it just doesn't work like that. There's, definitely a lot of misconceptions, which is part of, why I do the workshop, is to help people understand that it really isn't the way it works. And it is approaching it much differently than I think most people do. So,
how much of right place, right time do you think?
Timing is a huge part of it. But in order for timing to work for you, you have to be in the game.
Right.
So it's really hard to do the start and stop thing because it is about timing. A lot of it is about momentum. And, because I have a marketing background, I'm a true believer in whatever energy you're putting out and putting into something, it's going to come back. And in sales and marketing, it's always the case. Mm-hmm. When you're not putting in that energy, you're not putting those cogs in the wheel, you're not doing all those things that make the wheel turn, you're not selling anything, or, things aren't moving.
Right.
But when you're putting all those cogs in the wheel and you're gaining momentum, that's when you start seeing it come back. And it's the exact same thing.
Yeah. And I can see how you could get discouraged. I could see how it's all in how you look at it too.
It's a lot of perspective.
Yeah. And you could get discouraged. You can walk in a room and everybody looks just like you. So then you're scared that, but they're looking for something specific that you may have. Mm-hmm. And you have to just be, at some point it's going to line up. But unless you're in the room where it happens, right? Unless you're there, exactly. You're not going to get picked.
Well, and that's just the thing too. It's having the right perspective. Like, auditioning is part of my job. Mm-hmm. This is part of my job, and it's a delicate balance, because you do want to walk into every audition like excited and enthusiastic, and this could be it. But at the same time, when it's done, you need to be able to wipe your hands of it and move on to the next thing, to the next audition, because that audition is your job.
Right.
And then, when the booking happens, then you've really done your job. Mm-hmm. But always feeling like when you go into every audition, that you've done your job. You walk out, you were prepared, you did a great job. Everything else is out of your control.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So
how is there is it just me, or does it seem like there's a lot of one person shows, or these kind of like things that are going up in these festivals, mm-hmm. so that people can get some be seen? So if they're not getting a lot of auditions, it's another way to get people to notice or to come look at and coach and see what they're capable of doing?
I think it's a combination of
I think it's
things.
cool. I like it.
I don't know if you've ever seen the show Fleabag.
Yes.
So that started out as
so
a one-woman
good.
show.
Yes.
And she took it to Edinburgh, and and then it became a show on Amazon.
Yeah.
And
won Emmys.
Yes. And so I think there are a lot of people out there. I think one-person shows can be cathartic as well. So if somebody has a story, something that's really weighing on them, a story they feel like they need to tell, then doing a one-person show can really be a way to like get that out there. And they may not want anything more than that. Mm-hmm. They may not be looking for reps. They may not be looking to take that and turn it into a television show or anything else. But then there are those, like Fleabag, that was exactly what they were doing is, a lot of people, and especially now, because there's so many platforms and so many opportunities as far as ways to see people, ways to watch shows. We have the internet. It's like crazy.
Yeah,
right?
It is. It's amazing.
If you're not feeling like, if you have all that creative energy and you just, you're like, I really want to get myself out there. I have all these, you need to be doing your own work. Whether it's a one-person show, anybody can film a web series now and put it on YouTube. Like, you just need to do your own thing. Mm-hmm. You just need to, it's the cog in the wheel. You just keep putting them in and moving forward, and then it's just all timing.
Right. And yeah, it's interesting because now you can even, like Elena Bernardi I had on, and she did her Swipe the Musical, but she's on Instagram almost every day. She sing a song, she does lullabies. Exactly. It's like whatever she can think of to do. It's really cool, but it's a cool way now where people can. And then what's interesting too is, I would imagine, is that you audition, and then if somebody likes you and wants, they can go into your social media, and then they really get a good understanding of like who you are.
And they do.
Yeah. Which could be good and bad. You have to be careful, right?
They do.
I would imagine you have to be really careful because you don't want to be too extreme, and because that could make a difference if they're choosing you.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that, our social media platforms have become our resume to some extent. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, even for, jobs outside of the entertainment industry, they're definitely looking at your social media.
Yeah. And want to make sure, because some might like it if you're outspoken and you're whatever who you are, and then others may not. And they may not want you to be like that at all. You have no idea, I would imagine. So you just have to be, I'm going to imagine it's probably, you just need to be like true to yourself so that you know it's you're not trying to be something else. Mm-hmm. And so you make sure you're true to yourself, so then they know what they're getting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Social media has changed everything as far as, employment and, just it's changed a lot of the way we think and how we communicate with each other. It's interesting to see where we're going. So that would be, is that do you talk a little bit about that in the workshop at all, about social media? But that would be something that you would have to like really make sure that you're clear about of how you present yourself. It's interesting. I mean, I think that there are a lot of opinions about social media as an actor. There are, because we have this whole other group of people now that are called influencers. They have YouTube channels and they have giant Instagram followings, and they have but they're not necessarily, they're more like, a lot of them are not necessarily actors, they're personalities, mm-hmm. which is a little different, right? And so I think I have had parents ask me in the past, what do you think about having an Instagram, and, you say on there, run by parent or whatever. I see that a lot. A lot of people do it. I always just say, I think you need to do whatever you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with having your 11 or 12-year-old have an Instagram account, but you want to monitor it, cool. you know, if you don't think that, you know, that you think they need to be older and they're not quite, you know, whatever, I think that's cool too. I think the biggest place that social media might come into play now, which is interesting, is for commercials. Because, you know, if it's a new product,
right,
and they think that you have a really large following that will help their product, you know, I know a lot of people are being asked in the room, you know, what are your social media handles and how many followers do you have? So, I mean, I think it really depends on what you're trying to do,
right?
You know, as an actor,
right? Yeah,
I don't know how important it is really for you know, television and movies. Maybe, you know, I think every production has its own personality anyway, so I think it really just depends on what they're trying to do.
Do you think it would hurt an actor to promote a product? Like if they were doing that? Because I know, like, the reality, it's interesting, like the reality industry, because I worked for a writer and I did some research because the family did Gilligan's Island. So they were looking at doing a reality show for Gilligan's Island, which they ended up doing. But he wanted me to research to figure out, like, what was, you know, what were all these, because it was kind of, reality shows are kind of new.
Right.
And he wanted me to, like, nose around and figure it out. And one of the things I found is that when you get to, like in Bachelorette or whatever, you get to the last 4, you get your union card. So because you have so much screen time that you get your SAG-AFTRA. So a lot of people will do it just to get their SAG-AFTRA card.
Interesting.
And so then that's this whole, so then now you have all these reality people, and they're not really actors, or maybe they are, and they thought they could go in that direction. But there was a thing where Hollywood was kind of shunning them, and they thought, well, I'll get my card and I'll get on, you know, a TV show. And it's like, no. You'll get on another reality show.
You'll get a $3,500 bill from SAG. How about that? Exactly. Are you ready for that?
Right, when it renews, because maybe they'll pay for it the one time, you know, for the show, but then when you renew it, yeah. And it was interesting because it seemed, and it seems like that's where it's gone, because now you have, like, how-to shows that are hosted by ex-reality shows, people from, like, Survivor or whatever, but there's a whole nother world over here.
Well, and that's kind of what I was saying about.
So I think it would hurt if you're an actor. I would think that if you're an artist, I would think that would hurt to go in that direction, because I think you'd get lumped into that group.
I think a lot of times what happens is people just end up going where the work is. Mm-hmm. So because the business is so competitive and there's so many people vying for the same job, I think that if somebody, regardless of actor or like wherever somebody's offering them a job, a lot of times is where they're going to go. And that's kind of the path they end up taking, you know, whether it's good or bad,
right?
You know, so I think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But I think when you're young in your acting career, unless you're a household name, I mean, a commercial is not going to hurt you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And actually, we have so many big actors doing commercials now. I mean, you've got, like, Jennifer Garner, you know, doing...
Yeah.
Is it American Express?
Or Capital One, I think.
Capital One, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you have, you know, all these people that do it. So...
It was funny. People don't realize, because when we were young, well, I think I'm older, but no, it was really, like, looked down on. I'm from back when I'm old enough to remember when it was looked down on for you to do television. Like,
right.
Like it was
because people looked at it like soap operas.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
Like, soap operas had such a bad name. It was like, oh, they're on a soap opera.
Right, exactly. Or if they did a television show, it was like a step down. It means that you weren't able to make it in the movies, and it was like a step down. And when you did it, it was over because you were never going to work in the movies again or something. It's so strange. And now it's so the opposite because now there are a lot of actors.
Now hitting a television show is like hitting the lottery.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's great. It's steady work and it's, you know.
And and from the actor, the creative side of it, you get to really blow out this character.
Yeah, and that's good unless you get stuck on a show for 8 years and then you're over it. I see.
Yeah,
you know, that happens a lot too. Mm-hmm. So it's, you know, it's like yay, work, but then sometimes I think, you know, if you don't
then you're pigeonholed.
Get to do other things as well, then you know that can become monotonous too. So you know, the nice thing is maybe to get on a show where you work a few months, but then you get to do a movie and the other time you're not working. That's like the ultimate. You know? Then you get to still be creative and do both.
Yeah. I remember, it's funny. And if you're on a hit show, like I remember reading that Kit Harington from Game of Thrones, when everyone thought he was dead, then they needed him because then everyone went, well, but he still has his long hair and he would have cut his hair if he's gone off the show. But they had him keep his long hair and then it turned out he was still on. And it was so funny, but yeah, you get trapped, you know, and you get trapped in the character and pigeonholed. You don't want to be, you know, pigeonholed either.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that they'd still take a hit series over anything.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
But at least it is interesting where the drama, it seems like the movies are gone to Marvel, obviously, and the big and all those kind of things, horror, you know, and stuff like that. But the actual like simple kind of dramas are moving over more toward television.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. There's just so much right now. I mean, so many shows, so many channels, so much, like,
which is crazy. Good. It's more opportunity.
It is. I think probably as an actor starting out, though, I think the change and the struggle with having so many platforms and having this whole new media contract is that, unfortunately, I think actors are being paid less. So, it's a balance. It's like, yes, more opportunities, but also people being paid less. And, even with commercials, it used to be, if you booked a commercial, it was like bank. You could make so much money off this commercial because then it would run and run and run. But now I would say 90 and maybe even more than 90% of commercials are non-union. So you're being paid a buyout, a one-time thing, and you're not getting any residuals.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So recently, some of those things have changed. I know SAG's really been fighting, to get some of those commercials back into the union. Mm-hmm. So I think there have recently been some changes, but I do think that having all the opportunities is great. But yes, there are definitely actors being paid less. Because, that's kind of the way it works,
Right.
If there are fewer channels, fewer, then, obviously there's more money to go there. But mm-hmm. now with all of the platforms, that money is just being spread out and spread out and spread out.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. But at least more people are working. So
definitely.
That's kind of good too.
It is good.
And then more things going on here in California. That's the thing. Like, it's interesting coming out to LA, but that doesn't necessarily mean that things are filmed in LA.
No, but I do still believe that most of the leads and everything that are being filmed are being cast out of LA. Mm-hmm. You may be on a show in Atlanta or on a show in Chicago, but odds are the leads in that show were cast out of LA.
Right.
And they may hire, supporting characters and definitely background actors locally, but the leads are still coming from LA.
So it's still better to be here and to be available from here.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And if you're fortunate enough to be able to live in a couple places, like, if you could be in Atlanta and LA or Chicago and LA, then, that could be a benefit too as an actor, because then you can say, oh, well, I can work as a local in Atlanta where that show is being filmed. There's all these little things that you can do that can kind of give you a little bit of a leg up,
Right.
So.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I don't know if you saw the Judy Garland the movie.
I haven't seen it yet. I really want to see it.
Yeah, it was good.
So good.
But I'm a fan of hers, and of course the whole it's so different now than it used to be back then, because back then it was such a it was so everything was run by the studio. It's everything, and they really. I thought it was a little in the movie. It was a little heavy-handed, the way they treated it. I thought, just because it was. I don't know. When you see it, you'll see what I mean. But her mother was giving her the uppers and the downers and everything else way before, when she was doing vaudeville, to get her up in the morning and get out there, and it was crazy. Yeah. But the way children were not protected back then. Oh. And how they are now, and with child actors, don't they? A lot of times they do try to look for young-looking 18-year-olds, right? So that they can kind of they can sidestep all the rules for children under 18.
When Reed started acting, he was 13, but was usually going in for 8 or 9. So now he's 19. And he typically is cast as a 14 to 15-year-old. He looks so young.
Right.
So it's fortunate for him. But yes, that's true, because of the labor laws and the SAG, the union rules and everything, there are kind of like benchmarks in age, like, at this age you can work 8 hours, and on these nights, and there's all these technical things, and then at this age you get an extra hour or two. So it is, so the older you are but can play younger, so they get a little more out of you. Yeah, it's a definite advantage. So.
Yeah, and they don't have to worry about the schooling and all that other stuff. All of that is. They don't have to worry about it, because they have once they're older. Which is an
extra cost to the production as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so if they have to have a set teacher, then that's an extra chunk out of their production budget. So.
What did you do for schooling? How did you work it? Did you?
Reed had we had homeschooled since. The kids were much younger, long before acting. We were already homeschooling, so that worked in our advantage.
Right.
So
yeah,
because he actually graduated early, so he was able to, work technically what they call it legal 18 when you're graduated from high school, but you're not 18, just because as an industry term it means they don't have to have a set teacher.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I think it was good, but it's interesting that they always figure out ways around it. They always figure out ways around things. Isn't that funny?
Oh yeah.
They'll have
it's all about the money.
Yeah, I remember reading about that, because I think it was like 90210. Like none of them were in high school, and they were all in high school. Like their characters were all in high school, but what Luke Perry was like 30. And he was playing like a 19-year-old or something, or 18-year-old. It was funny. Yeah.
It's interesting. I wonder sometimes about if our view of what a high school age teenager should look like, just because on television and in movies, typically it is somebody much older playing that, so they're not really that age. So I wonder sometimes what that impact is on us.
Exactly.
Psyche,
right. Or what or the kids watching. And thinking that they're not mature enough, or why don't I look older? Or why isn't my body caught up? Or why that guy, he looks fine. It's like, well, yeah, because he's 25.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's 25 playing 16.
Exactly. So he looks like, he looks great, because he's all grown up. So
he's definitely an adult.
Yeah. And the reason behind that is money, and they don't have to jump through all the hoops of having children. So it's really interesting. That's like babies with the twins, they get away with that because they'll get a twin.
Yep.
So if you probably don't even bother bringing your baby in to be used on a TV show unless it's a twin, right? Because they're probably going to find a twin to do it so that they can do the less time on camera and everything else.
And even, twins are a hot commodity, even up, before they're a teenager, just because they can switch them out.
Yeah. Like the Olsons and everything. So it's funny. It's funny, like getting all the background information. So, all right. Well, wow, look at that. It's already like we're now we're in the promotion standpoint, because I like to do the last bit of the episode so you can promote and you can say where everybody can find this. So the workshop is this Sunday. So do you think you're going to do another one at some point, or are you going to see how this goes?
Yeah, no, I definitely will. Like I said, I've done it not as a panel. The panel is a little more work, just coordinating schedules and bringing people in, all at once. Sometimes that's difficult, but I will definitely continue to do the workshop, even if it's just myself and just one or two other people that I can bring in. So, yes.
Oh, great. And people can still go. Is there still availability to go on Sunday?
There are still some seats. And because the BFF Festival is sponsored by the City of Santa Monica and the Council for the Arts, it's all free. So because it's sponsored. Mm-hmm. So what happens, unfortunately, a lot of times too, is anytime something is free, a lot of times people won't show up because there's no commitment there. They didn't really buy a ticket.
Right,
so
exactly.
If something else comes up, then, so yes, I mean, definitely there'll be seats, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Great. So how do they find it?
So you can the easiest way is to go to Facebook and just find But I'm Almost Famous. There's an event link. There's a link to reserve your ticket. That's really the best way. And it's pretty simple. You either just send an email or you call, and I think you can reserve up to 6 seats. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So it is free, but they do require a reservation.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Great. Yep. And I'm going. So that's going to be fun. Stacy's going too. So that's going to be fun.
It's at 11 a.m. It's on a Sunday, so it's easy to get to Santa Monica on a Sunday. It's from 11 to 12:30.
Let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope. And then you can go have lunch by the ocean.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Or go shopping at the 3rd Street Promenade.
Yes, it's beautiful Santa Monica. It's so beautiful. And then what else do you have coming up? Do you have any other shows or anything else that you're producing or anything coming up? Or anything anybody should look out for? Or this is your main focus right now?
This is my main focus right now. I have a couple other things in the works, but I'm currently promoting a show in New York at the Triad. But her show is actually the same day as my workshop. So if you're in New York, it's called Ageless Wonders at the Triad in New York City. And then I have a couple other things that will be later, like in January, around the first of the year, a couple other shows that I plan on producing. So,
what's a show that makes you want to produce it? Like, how do you find them? How have you found them? Has it been just
honestly they found me? Mm-hmm. So it just depends. I think honestly, it has a lot more to do with the person doing the show, mm-hmm. or the people doing the show, and the personality and the synergy. Yes, I want to be also passionate about whatever their show is about, of course.
Right.
But it has a lot more to do with the synergy between us, I think, as artists, just because as a producer and a promoter, we're going to work pretty closely together. And so I think it's honestly more about that than it is the other, mm-hmm. a lot of times.
Right. And because you want to be like I just remember you were emotional at the end of Stacy's when I was like, yeah.
Well, I think it was the first time her sons had seen the show.
Yeah.
So for me, I think that's what it was. It wasn't so much that it was the last show of the run. It was more that it was the first time her kids were seeing.
But that shows how how attached you get,
of
and
course,
it's
exactly.
cool. Yeah.
I mean, we're all artists. You know, you want to be able to work with people. I mean, in this industry, I feel like you find your people, and those are the people that you continue to work with, and you carry them forward, and that's really how this industry works. And so yeah, you know, you just find your people.
Yeah, no, and that was nice, and her show was great. So, but I just remember that, and I was thinking, oh, that shows how like emotionally attached you got, which was great. That was what you would want.
Well, and also, you know, Stacy and I have been friends for a while too. So,
yeah,
I think there was a lot of that going on.
Right,
yeah.
But it's still nice. I think that's what you should like in the grand scheme of things. It's a business, but it's also you want to make sure that you're just around people that look out for each other and help each other throughout all of it, and the old saying of being nice to the ones you on the way up, you know, because you'll meet them on the way down, right? The old saying.
For sure. There's definitely, you want to not burn bridges.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think we can wrap this up. Thanks so much for coming. I hope you come back.
Thank you. Absolutely.
And I'm looking forward to the workshop on Sunday. I will post everything on my Facebook page, the links on my Facebook page and my Instagram. And thanks so much for tuning in. You can, I'm actually not sure what I'm doing next week. I do have people lined up other days, but I'm not really, I'm still recovering and getting every back in after my accident. So I'm still working on that, but it might just be me. I haven't done a podcast episode just by myself and updating everybody on what's going on with me. So I might do that next week. So thanks so much for tuning in. You can find me. I need to be better about this. You can find me at Sally. I have my website, which is Sally Talk, Sally-talk.com, and that you can find everything that I'm involved in. If you want, if you want me to be a speaker, if you want to know where my podcast is and all my episodes, if you want to check out Arbonne, it's all on that page. It's my new website. Also on Facebook, I'm at Sally Talk. You can find me on Spotify at Sally Talk, iTunes on Sally Talk, iHeartRadio on Sally Talk, and also Instagram is Sally Talk. So if you wonder what the name of this podcast is, it's called Sally Talk.
and mine is easy too. It's everything. Instagram, Facebook, my website is all Megan Ford Miller. Doesn't get any more simple than
That's
that.
right.
So.
I remember somebody saying that, like, it's, you know, it's cute to have something that's like all about this, all about that, but it's like, sometimes it really just needs to be your name, so that's how it's easy for people to remember to find it, and especially in this day and age when there's so much. It's like all these, it was funny, I was thinking about the other day that all the handles have replaced when we were young, and they were the license plates. Remember when people would get a license plate that said, you know, I love whatever,
right.
You know, now it's like that's your social media handle, and you don't see them as much on the cars anymore. You don't see people's like personalized license plates anymore, because it's not, you don't do that anymore. So it's kind of fun. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk again next week. Have a great week.